All right, good evening and welcome to the Thursday, April 25th, 2024 Scarborough Board of Education Business Meeting. Can we call the attendance, please, Diane?
Sure. Mrs. Gammon,
Here.
Ms. Castellanos,
Here.
Mr. Kelleher,
Here.
Ms. Leong,
Here.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Here.
Ms. Tarpinian,
Here.
Mr. Peony Huff. Here. Ms. Leisure
She's been excused.
and Mr. Shumway.
Here.
Wonderful, thank you. Would everyone please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perfect, thank you. Agenda item 4.0 is an approval of minutes from the March 21st, 2024 workshop and business meetings and April 4th, 2024 business meeting. Do I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, can we call the vote, please?
Mrs. Gammon,
Yes.
Ms. Castellanos,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Tarpinian,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Yes.
and Mr. Shumway.
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. It shows unanimous. Agenda item 5.0 are adjustments to the agenda. Are there any adjustments this evening?
No adjustments.
Perfect, thank you. Agenda item 6.0 is a recognition of Scarborough Middle School and High School unified teams. And so for this, I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Well, I would just love to call all of you up and celebrate this amazing event. And Albert, do you want to just come on up and get started? It is so wonderful that we can have you here in person, and thank you so much for being here this evening. Stephanie, you want to lead things off?
You want me to start with it? I can, sure.
Yeah, let's do the video.
Celebration was held at Scarborough Middle and High School tonight to mark their Special Olympics National Banner recognition for demonstrating a commitment to inclusion. Fox 23 photojournalist Scott Episcopo caught up with students and educators who spoke about honor.
Scarborough High School and Scarborough Middle School are being presented their national banners, being recognized for meeting 10 standards of excellence. They're unified champion schools. Scarborough is a really good example of what happens when your school and your community and your parents and your students all get on board with this, and that it really is making a huge difference to everyone in this school and everyone in this community.
It's been wonderful to play on these teams and just have fun.
First sport I ever did was unified basketball back in freshman year. I was originally an athlete, and then during sophomore year I became a helper. This has gave me faith in myself, belief in myself, confidence in myself especially. This team's amazing. The joy in their faces when you see them make a basket or just play and shoot.
Yeah, Grace.
It's amazing. Please show up to your unified sports. Please go support your kids, because they don't know how much just saying hi to that kid means to them. Because I was that kid at one point. I am in special ed. Now I'm almost out of it. But kids just saying hi to me, saying my name, just recognizing me, giving me high fives, meant the most to me, because I feel like I didn't have any friends. So you going to go support your unified game, because those mean so much to your kids, because it meant a lot to me. So having those people saying, hey, you did wicked good out there. Hey, you did amazing. Hey, you look great out there. Hey, I'm proud of you. This is inclusion. This is for making the world a better place.
My name's Stephanie Leonhardt. I'm the co-advisor of the Unified Club at the middle school. First and foremost, I want to thank the Board of Education for inviting us here tonight. I'd also like to recognize Diane Netto and Jacob Brown, and I'm not sure if he's here, who shared a vision in 2018 and were instrumental in starting the Unified Club at Scarborough Middle School. The SMS Unified Club joins students with and without disabilities together through school and community activities. We meet weekly to promote inclusion, unity, and whole school engagement among all students through both competitive sports and non-competitive social opportunities. All middle school students are invited and encouraged to join the club. Each year we have between 40 and 50 members. Our club plans Inclusive Schools Week, sends a group of students to the Inclusion Revolution Special Olympics Youth Summit, hosts a unified basketball team, and meets weekly for team building activities, games, outdoor adventures, and volunteer opportunities. After an amazingly successful first year at the middle school in 2018, we knew we had to expand the opportunity to our high school students. Unfortunately, in 2019, the plan to add unified sports at the high school was deemed an unmet need in the budget, and our outlook was dim. Thanks to a group of strong advocates, including parents, staff, administrators, and even students who showed up to board meetings and spoke about the importance of unified activities, our dream was realized, and unified basketball was added as an MPA sport at the high school. Soon after, the buddy system was born. Now we stand before you as national champions to go from an unmet need in 2019 to a unified national champion school in 5 years is no small feat. Both Scarborough Middle School and Scarborough High School were recognized on Friday, March 8th, and presented with banners designated each of them as National Unified Champion Schools. A unified champion school receiving national banner recognition is one that has demonstrated commitment to inclusion by achieving 10 standards. These standards are based upon 3 overarching components: Special Olympics Unified Sports, inclusive youth leadership, and whole school engagement. Scarborough is among only 10 districts across the entire U.S. who have earned this designation in 2 schools. There were 5 main schools recognized this year, and 2 of them were Scarborough High School and Scarborough Middle School. A huge thank you to my co-advisor at the middle school, Heather Nay, who couldn't be here tonight, buddy system advisor at the high school, Michelle LaJoy, SHS Unified Basketball Coach, Albert McCormick, and his assistant, Brooke Wasden, Unified Volleyball Coach, Lisa Faris. Also, thank you to the dozens of other staff members who show up to help support students, volunteer at our events, play in the Unified versus staff basketball games, and help to hand out 800 lays to our entire student body during Lay on the Kindness Day every December. We can't underestimate the amazing work being done by these people to promote inclusion in our schools. That video you just watched is a testament to all the hard work and dedication of our staff, administrators, and students. So thank you.
And I'm just going to take this opportunity to introduce some of these wonderful, hardworking students that we have in front of us, because without them, this work doesn't happen. Administrators and the board, you built the structure for them to thrive and succeed and to take inclusion and make it a point of action for them, but they're doing the work, and that's what we need to celebrate. We have Scarlett Layton over here. First in line. Scarlett is a unified member and basketball player. And then we have Ruhi Patel, who is a buddy system member and also a Inclusion Summit youth representative, which we Scarborough attended 3 weeks ago now. And it is a consortium of schools who come together who are invested in inclusion and unified opportunities to come together and brainstorm and meet and greet and talk about how do we grow stronger as a unified community. Then we have Brianna Parento, who is our senior and most experienced member. She is a 3-sport athlete, bocce, volleyball, and basketball. She is also a member of our leadership board of the buddy system. So. Then we have Miss Grace Leisure, who is a middle schooler, basketball player, and unified club member. Yeah. Delia Fravert, who is a basketball player, also a buddy system member, and also was a youth leadership summit representative. And then we have Sophia Rinaldi, also buddy ship member and buddy system member and basketball player. So the work that these students do every day is what makes us unified champions. And our coaches.
Before you run off, is there any comments or any feedback? Go ahead. Some of us had the very distinct pleasure of being there and, that was a very inspiring evening for all of us. And you should be so very proud of all the work you've done over 5 years and how far you've come and what you've been able to accomplish. It's really, really incredible. And to sit in the gym and to see it full to the rafters with your colleagues, with your peers, with your friends, with your parents, playing basketball with you. It was an unbelievable evening. It was unbelievable from start to finish. And those of us, many of us up here got to go, and it is a night that none of us will ever forget. So thank you for all of your hard work, Albert and Stephanie, and your colleagues that help you. This is truly something to be so proud of. This is a magnificent program and something that is long lasting, well beyond what you're doing right now. This is something that will last forever. So thank you. Thank you very much. They can stay in here about the budget if they'd like.
Celebration was held at Scarborough Middle.
You got someone who can sit in the front row.
That's right. All right, agenda item 7.0 is the Spotlight Award recognition. And for this, I'll turn it over to Jenna.
Okay, so we are recognizing our April Spotlight Award winners today. So go to the next slide. First, we're gonna find out, oops. That's okay. First, we're gonna find out who did the nominating because our nominator left a nice message for everyone. Marcia Graham. Marcia Grant nominated 6 people. So we are recognizing 6 Spotlight winners today. And they are, you can hit, yeah, there we go. These are Leah Lee, Jillian Daigle, Gabby Joy, Lori Bloom, Marlisa Dowling, and Abby Randall. And can you hit that play button at the top corner there?
Hi, my name is Marcia Grant, and I nominated the Classroom and Community Connections team at Blue Point School for the Spotlight Award. The team members are Lori Bloom, Jillian Daigle, Marlisa Dowling, Gabby Joy, Leah Lee, and Abby Randall. This group began developing the Community Classroom Connections program last spring, and their vision came to fruition this past fall. Their program fosters social connections among students and teachers alike. It encourages positive behavior in all areas of the school, and it instills a school-wide sense of community. At the monthly community meetings, the entire school gathers in the gym. The kids have learned to come together with predictable routines and procedures. During the meetings, they have incorporated concepts from our new Mind Up curriculum by having the whole school practice mindful listening and movement, and by taking brain breaks together. Also in these meetings, the team reinforces school expectations and celebrates our school mantra of kids being safe, kind, and focused. The team passed out coins to the entire staff to be spent catching kids being safe, kind, and focused throughout the school and the playgrounds. When the coin jars are filled, the team plans celebrations for the kids. These celebrations have included an outdoor concert with our talented music teacher, Andrew Martell, an impromptu recess, a dance party, a pass-the-ball challenge, Pie and Teachers Faces show, popsicle party, and a building party. On the weeks when there is no community meeting, the entire school participates in Classroom Connections. Classroom Connections have been a way for each classroom to get together with every other classroom in the school. The team put together a rotating schedule for the classrooms to follow as they pair up with another class. The activities that the classrooms do is up to the teachers themselves. Some of the activities that have been tried this year include STEM challenges, drawing, playing outside, crafts, board games, play inside, read books, take a nature walk, play Would You Rather, etc. Finally, the team has added a daily positive affirmation to our morning announcements. I am kind, I am friendly, I am caring, I am curious. This helps put us all in an optimistic mindset for the day. Congratulations on this well-deserved recognition. Community Connections team, you have built many bridges and made our school even better. Thank you.
That Marcia granted us with. So here's an example of all of the things that Marcia just mentioned. We are kind, friendly, grateful, helpful, and caring, and curious, and loving. And there are more pictures with the kids. Coin jars. Yep. And one more. And I'm assuming that's the outdoor concert that we had. And then there are some videos also.
Why? What we like best about the community is the rewards. I like the pie in the face reward. I like the popsicle reward. I like the dance reward. I like the Exoasis reward. We loved Classroom Connections. I liked about Classroom Connections seeing friends and seeing all teachers. I liked about Classroom Connections was making arts and crafts. I liked doing the directed drawing with Mrs. Gowland's class. I like to do puzzles and in different classes. And I like giving thank you cards to the veterans. I liked meeting new teachers. I liked meeting new friends and seeing old ones.
Yeah, so our speakers here don't seem to be picking up the sound as much, but they said some beautiful, beautiful things about you guys. And when you click back into the slide, you'll be able to hear it a lot better. And then we have another video.
Why? Well, we love class about the community.
You all, champ, congratulations.
And then our last slide coming up. Congratulations to the 6 of you. Would like to invite you guys up to the front here so we can take a picture with all of you and award you with your presents.
You need
All right, are there any comments? Yes, go ahead, before you sneak off.
I just want, thank you so much. I think it means today really has been about connection so far of like how to build bridges between students at schools to make sure everyone feels included and welcomed. And as a parent of a Blue Child student who I was very concerned about connection, seeing the emphasis this community has put on and the individuals in each of the schools have placed such a premium on building into children the importance of connection with others is touching. It's the reason why I'm so proud to be here, and we can't have any more emotions, so we're going to move to the budget very shortly. But I just want to say thank you. This is beautiful, and I always love the Spotlight Awards, but this one was personally very meaningful for my family and my community, and it's because of people like you that we have such an amazing school district. So thank you very, very much.
All right. You two are also welcome to stay for the budget if you so choose. There is going to be a very interesting discussion next, if you want to at least hear that, about an outdoor learning initiative before the budget. Yes. There's still no. All right, agenda item 8.0 is the superintendent's report, and 8.1 is the 2024 Maine Outdoor Learning Initiative grant. So I'll turn this over to Jeff.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce our curriculum director, Katie Vitro.
Thank you. I am here tonight with our humanities instructional coach from the middle school, Dylan Nay. Some other members of the grant writing team couldn't make it tonight. Amy Johnston, Carrie Bracey, Liz Gartley. And I want to say thank you to the administration, Kathy and Chris, for being supportive in our endeavor. We're here tonight to let you know about an amazing opportunity through some grant writing that is happening at the middle school. I believe there's some slides here. So the MOLLI grant, or the Maine Outdoor Learning Initiative, was a competitive grant that the Maine Department of Education posted in November. It was a new and exciting opportunity for schools because previous to this year, schools were not eligible to apply. It was only open to nonprofit organizations serving students in the capacity of outdoor education. And so for the first time, schools got to compete for the Maine Outdoor Learning Initiative. I saw the grant in the MDOE announcement and asked permission to pursue it, knowing that it would be a really great thing to include somewhere in the Scarborough School District, and received, while I was asking for permission, an email from the team at the middle school saying, hey, have you seen this? Could we have permission to pursue this? And so out of that, or kind of organically, formed a team at the middle school that began to put our heads together to write this grant. The competitive grant was to address students in grades 6 through 12. It is ESSER funding that's left over at the state, and they're allocating that money to address COVID learning loss, particularly through the lens of outdoor education. And so we worked to put together a 2-phase grant at Scarborough. The first focused on a pilot interdisciplinary outdoor education unit that Dylan's going to speak a little bit more about. And then the phase 2 of the grant would be an opportunity for educators to engage this summer in curriculum writing to look at their current units and add outdoor education opportunities and interdisciplinary opportunities through the support of curriculum writing from the team. So we put our application in December and found out we were one of 113 organizations in the state. A handful of schools were awarded one of the competitive grants, and our grant funding totaled just shy of $53,000 in order to make this project a reality. So I'll give it to Dylan for a moment to talk about phase 1.
Yeah, we can talk about some of the fun stuff going on at the middle school. So I've been lucky to be working on this for the last couple of months. It's kind of my first opportunity working on grants. So it was a great opportunity, and I've had a lot of fun with it. And now I'm having a lot of fun getting out in the woods with some kids. Team RAIN, a 7th grade team with about 65 students, wrote and are implementing an interdisciplinary unit focused on outdoor education while making sure to assess important literacy, math, and science standards all together while focusing on their campus and analyzing the things that we have on campus to use for potential outdoor learning spaces. So this is all happening in the 4th quarter. The essential questions that we're focusing on are how do we collect data in the field to demonstrate the impact of human choices over time. So we'll be analyzing what we have on campus, what we could add to campus to make it more beautiful, but also more cohesive to learning. So ways in which we could incorporate outdoor learning spaces. How can we extend our learning to outdoor school grounds? I was out with them today. They were running around actually live brainstorming different things that they could do on campus, walking trails, logs where they could sit, but also like observational gardens, things that they can do to incorporate plant life that will bring wildlife to our campus. So all sorts of really cool things that not only will impact those 7th graders that are working on it today and for the next couple of weeks, but future generations of Scarborough students. So students will be presenting and assessing their proposals and actually sharing their proposals with stakeholders. I don't know what you guys are doing in June, but the invitation's out there, in order to have an authentic audience to share their learning and also practice making authentic claims, using evidence to support those claims to hopefully make real changes at SMS. We've also partnered with UNE. Our kids will be going to the UNE campus 2 different times in the spring. The first time will be to explore the tide pools and use quadrats and learn the skills of field science in a marine environment to bring back to campus. The second trip will be more of a forest experience where they'll, again, use field science techniques to bring back to our wooded campus. And then the one thing I'm very excited about, and the kids don't know about this yet, is that we're going to expose them to an idea of like creative problem solving. Because at UNE, they have this experiment in which they look at underwater currents. And so they actually use a gigantic slingshot with oranges and shoot them off into the ocean or into the Saco River and then watch them as they travel down the current. And the students will be there measuring with stopwatches to see how fast it's going. So it'll be an example of what is the potential of being outdoors and how do we solve problems outdoors and how do we use the outdoors as a learning tool. So UNE will be our partner this time around, but we also have partnerships with Maine Forestry Service, Project Learning Tree, the Center for Wildlife, the MESA program, which is an outdoor program up in Freiburg, and Bonnie Eagle as well. And all of this is free of charge. These are volunteers that are just sharing their expertise and also coming and speaking to our students in a way that just, puts them at awe. So that's some of the things we're doing at the middle school.
Phase 2 of the project will take place this summer, in which we will invite middle school educators from all disciplinary areas to engage with the team in curriculum writing and development. The goal of it being to walk away with a unit they can use in the next school year that ties outdoor education and interdisciplinary concepts into already existing or new units that address the standards they need in the curriculum to meet the curriculum. You would have noticed on the last slide, some of the money in the grant does provide costs, address costs related to outdoor and safety materials. So there's a good portion of the grant that will provide materials that can be used in perpetuity to by all educators in the building to use in lessons, as well as we're purchasing 130 books that are related to outdoor education themes through the help of our district library coordinator, Liz Gartley. And those books will be used in literature circles to address outdoor education themes while also addressing our literacy standards. So in phase 2, the team will work over 5 paid professional development days this summer to facilitate partnerships with the many groups Dylan just mentioned, to provide support to their colleagues in the writing of the units, and to have an opportunity to address both the successes and limitations they faced, so that as a teaching team, they can work together to continue to build outdoor education and interdisciplinary units that meet the standards, bring in elements of SEL in the community, and work to continue to build the campus as an outdoor education space for learning. So we wanted to share this with you because it is new and exciting, and we thought you would love to hear it.
Thank you so much. This is very exciting. This is really exciting. So thank you. But is there any comments first? Any questions?
I just want to say that sounds so much fun. I'm from New York City, so the aspect of exploring nature is very different. So hearing about how you guys can explore all of this with the kids and coming up with a curriculum based around just science and nature is wonderful. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this in action.
I also think it's really interesting and quite frankly, a really good opportunity for the students to get involved and to have this opportunity to help you write curriculum and help you write programming. It's, there's a lot to be said for bringing people in and having them help you along through the process to get the best results. And this is really a phenomenal opportunity, not just for the outdoor aspect, but this opportunity to participate in developing your curriculum is really cool. So I think that, thank you for doing that as well, for making that a part of this. All right, if there's no other question, do you have a question or comment, Jillian?
I was just going to say what each of them said is so cool. And I love every aspect of it. And I'm so grateful that you're doing this. I think the kids are gonna just be wowed and
Yeah, they've already
parents too.
begun, and I'm already hearing incredible things.
Oh, yeah.
I've already reached out to the team to say, I've got time in my schedule next week. When can I get in and work with you? So
Oh, that's so
I
fun.
might be in the woods next week doing some tree identification with them.
Your boots.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds amazing. That sounds amazing.
That sounds awesome. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming tonight, for presenting
Thank
this
you.
to us.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have anything
All
else
right.
for your report?
That was it. I would just highlight, the authentic learning experiences that we're providing kids, right? I mean, it's not just engaging them in ways that are, the outdoor leadership piece is so engaging, but it's connecting the literacy and science and math. Particularly at the middle school level, it's like kids are like, what am I going to need this for, right? And it's not so that you can do well on a test or to get the highest grade. It's real authentic learning that's connected to what you're doing in the classroom, and that's the focus and super powerful. So it's very exciting.
Thank you. All right, agenda item 9.0 is the chair's report, and 9.1 is the superintendent search update. I just have two things. I know we have a long agenda tonight. two things though. The superintendent search update, we are set to have our final interviews, which will happen on Monday, which is the 29th. And very shortly thereafter, within short order that evening, really, we intend to hopefully have a decision for the community to hear about at our next board meeting. So stay tuned for updates on that. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about very quickly is a survey that has gone out after our school building survey. So as you know, Carolyn and I have been working pretty diligently with members of the town council and worked on creating a survey that would ask the community and really get feedback for the building steering committee about their desires for a school building, what they would support in the way of a school building, what they're looking for, what's most important to them, et cetera, et cetera. So that survey has gone live as of last week. The goal, was to get to 600, was to get to it. That's our statistically valid number. And we were really close last week. And then we just found out today, actually, we got there. So we are good with ours, which is really good news because earlier this week, another survey went out that has really presented some concerns in the community, I would say. And there was not a lot of communication around it, so a lot of uncertainty as to what was going on and what was being asked and why and how. And I did speak with Counselor McGee today, and he's written a statement that I'm going to share here. The board has it, the council has it, and he did send it to the building leadership team as well. And his statement says, as many of you know, there is a phone survey being conducted in Scarborough that is asking about land bonds. Based on some of the rumors and misinformation I'm seeing, I thought it would be helpful to provide some context and some factual information regarding the survey origins and the intent as we understand it. A couple of months ago, the Parks and Conservation Land Board sent a request to leadership asking the council to place a land bond on the November ballot as the current land bond has been exhausted. The request was for $5 to $10 million. Leadership then requested the Parks and Conservation Land Board to be more specific in their dollar amount request, as well as some context and background for its potential uses in town. On April 18th, the council was informed by the Parks and Conservation Land Board that Scarborough had received an in-kind grant from the Trust for Public Land, a national nonprofit, to, quote, provide technical advice and assistance in developing recommendations for the town on creating public funds for parks, trails, land conservation, and climate resiliency. Part of that in-kind grant includes a survey of voters to determine public support for the potential future land bond. The survey includes questions on things like willingness to support various bond amounts and feelings on the importance of potential elements of the measure, e.g. to conserve water quality. The survey will begin this weekend and is expected to be completed in early May, end quote. At no point in time did the town council or town administration receive, review, or provide any input into the questions being asked in the survey. I can certainly sympathize with those that are confused by a few of the questions being asked in the survey, as I would have to agree they do not seem to align with what we were told they would be asking. And I do not fully understand how some of the questions asked would be helpful in understanding various conservation priorities in Scarborough voters. And so he concludes with, he hopes this provides better context and a clearer line of visibility for how the survey came about. So I think from our perspective on the board, it's really, I think we just really want to be clear that we are delineating between this survey and its potential needs versus our survey about the school and the input we're hoping to receive from that. So these are not one and the same. I think in the absence of information, people are trying to draw conclusions because they're trying to understand what this is. And so I think there's been some thoughts that this was about the school, and that is in fact not true. This is not at all related to the school, the project, or anything we are currently working on. Are there any questions? Any questions for me or any comments? All right, so we will move on to agenda item 10.0, which are the committee reports, and we will start with, I'm sorry. Yes, I do have one more before I move on to 10.0, but I'm going to turn this one over to Jenna and Jillian and Carolyn. They've been working really hard on our senior citizen appreciation dinner.
Yes, so here's some information about the Senior Citizen Appreciation Dinner. The goal of this is so that our seniors can get a sneak peek inside what our schools are doing. So we want to showcase what our students are doing. We also we're going to be serving food from the nutrition department, and our kids are going to be serving the foods. And we're hoping to get some live performances. We're still in talks with all of our clubs and everyone that's getting involved. But we really want a connection between our schools and our senior citizens also. So you can sign up online through community services. So you can click into that link, or you can actually call community services and they can help with signing up. And it's on May 30th from 4 to 6:30. And I think we said that dinner's going to be served around 4:30 that day. And there'll be raffles at the end of it too. So it should be a lot of fun, hopefully.
It'd be a great night.
Yeah.
That is for sure. And you might have said this, it's free, right? Free for
It
everyone
is
to attend.
free, yep. And I think we capped it at 100, but we'll see what our sign up's gonna look like. And then if we need to increase that a little bit more, we can. So thank you also to Community Services for working with us. They've been very helpful and made it very easy to streamline this process for us.
All right. Any questions for Jenna at the dinner? All right, agenda item 10.0 now is the committee reports. We'll start with curriculum.
Our April meeting was canceled. So due to our snowstorms the week before with all the power outages, I failed to send out our agenda in time. So I would be breaking our board protocols by not updating the public within 3 days notice. So that meeting was canceled. And then our next one is going to be May 14th.
Perfect.
12 to 1.
And you have the next one as well.
Yes, I do. So same goes for this one. Our April meeting was canceled for the same reasons. And our next meeting is to be determined. But we do have some updates. We have 2 student journalists starting articles for us, which is wonderful. This allows our students to get involved. Also helps us on our end too, to get content out to the public. But what I love about this is that it's the kids working on it, and it's another way of showcasing our kids and working on their abilities. And then we have some ongoing communication projects, so you can click into all of those. We're constantly reporting out school budget info, election info, and we're taking Spotlight Award nominations, and also now pushing out senior citizen dinner information. So there, you'll see the little picture with the Spotlight Award nominations wanted. This is actually going to be going out into break rooms in all of our buildings also, if it's not already there. And you can scan the QR code and nominate other people. As you can see, our Spotlight Awards are really fun. We really enjoy them. And then we also get the information out on the town newsletter too. So everybody in the town also gets this information. So nominate your colleagues.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenna. So any questions for Jenna on either committee?
We just actually received our first article from a student today. I haven't even had a chance to read it yet, but the board will be seeing that, and we are actively working on getting that published. So more to come.
It's so exciting. It's really exciting. All right, finance. Carolyn.
I'm here. My voice isn't very great, so I'll, Jenna and Freyla may need to kick in for me. But I will step back to the senior appreciation dinner for 1 second. I don't know, Jenna, if you mentioned it, it's for 65 plus. So she was trying to get me as a senior citizen going the 55 plus, and I'm like, no. not yet. So we're going with 65 plus, and the dinner is going to be baked ziti and a choice of chicken and rice. So, but on to the budget. We've been very busy. Excuse me. Sorry about that. We've had a lot of finance committee meetings lately. And this past week, and we've been meeting with the finance committee of the town council and going to community roundtables. And as of this afternoon, before we made our adjustments, the budget stood at a net increase of 3.65. And Jeff, Diane, you might be able to correct me. I think we were about a point above that when we started the process, about 4.65, 4.7, somewhere around there. So we've done some nice reductions. The town council asked us to do an overall reduction in our budgets between CIP and operating, or what I call operating, and I think school term would be general fund usage, and of almost 1.4 million. So in our committee meeting this afternoon on a vote of 2-1, we agreed that we would meet to about $1 million with a gap of about $300,000. Our savings are coming from first bucket of 564,000 is coming from items in motion. Most of that is the anthem. We had estimated I believe it was 8% increase, and it came in quite a bit less. And then we have some other estimates. I think family medical leave is going to come in quite a bit under, based on the guidance from the MSMA. We are proposing, we have yet to hear from the town. We wanted to use the entirety of the school impact fees to put towards the there's about $500,000 that we have set aside for architectural work to be done for whatever the new school solution may be. And then there's another $85,000 that we have set aside for architectural work to be done to add in vestibules that will promote safety at our 3 elementary schools. So we've been putting that work off, but we're looking at moving forward and at least getting that designed. And we'll see about getting that work done. And we did end up adding in the speech therapist. So net, it's almost $1.1 million in proposed adjustments. Shannon, I know you'll ask me about we did agree to take out the CIP. These items were bonded, so it'd be a reduction in revenue and a reduction in expense, so a net zero impact. But we took out the work for Quinton Drive, and then also the portable announcers booth. We're looking at finding different funding for that, and potential funding for maybe the boosters. And then we're going to add in the CIP budget a placeholder for the new school solution. I forgot to mention this to Kate, so I'll mention it to her in an email tomorrow. We'll add in $100 million just to have a number in there. We have no idea what the number will be, but just because it was conspicuous and missing in our CIP budget, we will put in that number, and it could go up, it could go down. We just have no idea what the solution is, but at least something will be in there. And I just wanted to speak briefly, as I mentioned earlier, it was a 2-1 vote on moving forward with this proposition. And so I was the one who abstained, or didn't abstain, but voted, had a different idea. So just so everybody can understand where I was coming from, I don't disagree with this at all. But what I feel, I feel like we can easily meet that extra $300,000 because the budgets each year are built off of last year's budget. And if you look at the savings we've had over the past, just since 2020, our average savings has been about $2 million. And if you go back a little further, the average savings since 2017, I took out the big year where we had the leftover money from Wentworth. But if you just do that, it's about $1.3 million in average savings over each year with the budget. So knowing that our budgets are built off of budget versus off of projection, that actually captures those savings. I feel we could easily meet that extra $300,000 if we desired, but I do understand the will of my other finance committee members, and that we want to present a budget that will cover all of our needs, assuming full full employment, so no turnover and all that. But again, just my finance brain being dosed in projections versus budget, and I won't say it that way because that will sound not nice, but based on just a different mindset. Again, I do feel like we can find those savings, and probably quite a bit more based on our experience. I mean, granted, the goal is that we would be at 100% employment, and a lot of the turnover, given the contract negotiations we're doing, hopefully that turnover will lessen. So I totally appreciate what everybody feels, but I just wanted to throw my thoughts out there too before we put it out. So that is that. We have a meeting, I believe, next week to go to second reading. Shannon, you might remind me, I forgot to look this up. When is our joint meeting with the town council? Is that next week as well?
It is. It's on Wednesday,
Okay, so Wednesday we'll have that.
May 1st.
Yes, that sounds right. So that is the update, and Jenna and Fraley, feel free to chime in as well.
I think we
Okay,
had.
go ahead.
This is Fraley. We've had a lot of meetings in finance, working really hard on the budget, and the roundtables have been really good to go out and meet community members where they are and listen to their concerns. I think ultimately the budget recommendation that is being moved forward is what it actually will cost the town of Scarborough to operate the schools at the level that we would like to operate them, and is a fiscally conservative budget overall if you look at our ask historically, but it also will meet all of our needs, and any because of the way municipal budgets work, particularly with the school, it's very prudent to make sure that you have the money that you need budgeted, because if we don't ask for it, we don't ever get it, we won't be able to accomplish what the school would like to accomplish. And so that was sort of the tension that was within those meetings.
I know we're going to see a budget presentation later, a small one, like an hour and a half. So if anybody has questions for finance right now, I'm just going to suggest perhaps if we have conversation about budget, maybe we wait to hear Kate's presentation and then ask questions about the budget. But is there any other questions for finance right now? Okay. All right. And I did look up, Carolyn, thank you. I know you're not feeling well, so thank you for doing that. The joint workshop is at 5:30 on the 1st. All right. The Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee.
So we had a great meeting on April 9th. There was a lot of great discussion. The new charge has really kind of structured the meetings in a way that they're working towards a concrete goal, which will be presented to this board very soon, which I'm very excited about. I think it's time the EI committee showed up at a meeting and told us what they were doing. We are planning a community meeting on May 21st. That was one of the charges. It's going to be in Wentworth from 6:30 to 8:30. It's going to focus on some of the work that we've done this year. I say we collectively, and I'm looking at the person who did most of the work. But we're going to have a presentation on MLL, multilingual learners, which is a big issue in Scarborough. Actually, it's come out through the budget. It's been something that we've talked a lot about, and I think It's a very, very good presentation, and we hope to really have some conversations with the community about DEI, what they're seeing, what they're wanting to see, and we'll see how that goes. The next plan after that is to work on the presentation report that's due in June, just make sure everyone remembers to put on the calendar. That's going to be a kind of a summary. It's going to hit what it's in there to be a summary of the work that was done the last year and sort of give the board an update about what they were working on. Again, I think that will be really good and highlight some more transparency so that people really get a sense of what's going on there. The next meeting is on May 14th. Everybody is welcome. It's in the high school in the AV room from 6 to 7:30. And then if anybody is available on the 21st, we would love to see you at Wentworth for the presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions? for Freyla? Do you know when they're planning on presenting to the board? Do they want workshop time? Are they looking for like, what is their thoughts on?
Their thoughts are, we told them that they have to give us a report in June, so they're going to try to do that. So I think it's something that they would love some direction on. It would be helpful for us to tell them when to show up.
Okay.
The later meeting might be better.
Okay.
Give as much time as possible. Sorry, Kelly, I was talking about Kelly. like you.
I think that, let me just look at my calendar really quick because the June meeting is the one that we pushed to the 27th. We voted to move to the 27th, so that would be that second June meeting.
Well, communicate that. Unfortunately, the board would like to bump it into July because of the constraints of time. We can certainly do that. I don't think that's an issue, but we just need to, we're trying to comply with the charge.
Yeah, and then in July, we would only have one meeting, which, I'll check the date of that, but, yeah, the second June meeting would be the 27th. There would not be a workshop that day, just so you know, so that if their presentation would be a part of our regular meeting because we are doing the joint workshop the night before.
That would be fine. I think if you give them 5 minutes, they would be thrilled.
Perfect. And that would be after their community meeting, so they can include the information they receive from that as well. Perfect. All right. Well, negotiations, I'll keep with you.
Negotiations are going slowly, but they're going. We've sent all 3 proposals to representation. We're looking forward to seeing their written responses. We got one this morning, which is great. And we are attempting to get these contracts completed as quickly as possible. I think we all understand that people who don't have contracts are anxious about their future, as they should be. And so we owe them a contract as soon as possible. And the board is working at a goal to get that done as quickly as we can. Our next meeting is next Thursday on the 2nd. And there'll be more specific updates at our next executive session. When I wrote the slide, I didn't know that it was tonight because I wasn't sure it was slide in. It is tonight. And so I'll give a more full update this afternoon or evening. I guess we're afternoon. We're way afternoon. Okay.
All right, any questions? Are they, when I say they, is the SEA aware of our goal, the board's goal to have the 3 contracts completed by the end of the school year?
I'm not going to make representations about they're aware of or not. We've stated that to them.
Maybe we've
several
told
times.
them. Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, you can continue on with policy.
My first love, policy. So we are chewing through the B policies. As you will see today, we're going to hit some of them coming up later. I won't spend a lot of time on that, but that's the left-hand column. So that you'll see later. Our next meeting is May 6th at 4 o'clock. The right-hand column of all the little writing, those are the policies in order that we plan to go through them. They get bumped if something comes up with higher priority. Right now, we're chewing through the B policies, which I think will take us into the fall, probably realistically, and then we'll hit Cs, although there's probably gonna be a change in policy committee coming up in the summer, so we'll see what happens at that point.
Any questions? I feel like I have all the questions this evening. Do we have any word from Counselor Hamel about the naming of facilities?
No, in fact, I was supposed to talk to Counselor Anderson about that on Tuesday and I forgot.
Okay.
So I apologize about that. Counselor Anderson was going to ask Counselor Hammer to put it on their agenda because it hasn't made it on the agenda yet.
Okay.
But I will circle back around and have an update for you next
That would
report.
be great. Thank you. Thank you. All right, new building committee. So Leanne and Jillian.
All right. Okay, so we continue to meet every single week from 6 to at least 8. But a lot of the work is being done in subcommittees. And when I wrote this slide, actually, we hadn't had presentations, but this past Monday, there were several presentations. The first presentation was actually 2 weeks ago by the enrollment group, and they were discussing some of their concerns, which led them to believe that we should use, previously we used the sort of middle of the road number, if everybody remembers that presentation, but they actually wanted to go with a higher number. They were worried about our enrollment actually exceeding those initial benchmarks, I guess. But we also heard last week from, and by the way, the committee did agree to adopt those numbers and move forward with that. It'll be more involved in phase 2, but we had benchmarking and programming, and the Building Infrastructure Committee and the Finance Committee all presented this past Monday. Their recommendations are kind of hard to list right now, but they had some specific questions to help us move into phase 2. They broke down what the benchmarking and programming listed off things that they felt that were absolutely necessary, building infrastructure as well, discussed in detail what the buildings need right now, what they lack, and what it would mean to get all of those things in there. Also making recommendations for a more thorough investigation in phase 2 in a nutshell. But those are all available online, and the actual presentations will be posted to Facebook and elsewhere shortly. Any questions? What? Okay.
Yeah, and I think enrollment report group, the reason they came out with a recommendation for using that increased number, what they, when Rebecca did the enrollment study, the Census Bureau information hadn't come out.
Yep.
And she was able to gather I should say, were able to gather the new birth rates for
Yep.
the last year. So if you recall, when Rebecca came to us and we had the workshop, she said if births stayed at 200 or above, that middle of the road number would not be sufficient. It would not cover our
Yep.
needs. And what the enrollments committee in looking has discovered is that we did stay above 200 births for 2 years in a row. So that was really the push for the use of the greater number with that. And so I do think what I heard too on Monday, just to add on to what you were saying, what I heard Monday was that this next Monday, they're going to start working on, as a committee, chewing through recommendations.
Yeah, so everybody's going to have a chance to pitch a 3-minute idea. I mean, anything that they think would be a solution to our issues. And then I think eventually the group will boil them down to some real top choices. They're going to use stickers and, put charts up, and they're going to arrive at some top 3 to really kind of dig into. We won't actually be present for that, so we'll all have to be watching it online. But they're gonna plow ahead with it, and I will be very interested to see and hear about it. I think that they're all going to be interesting and probably well-detailed, thought-out plans. So we've seen a few come through, and people have sort of intermittently sent along their ideas through this process. So certainly going to be interesting and kind of exciting that we're at that point already. So the group is doing a lot of work, that's for sure.
Yeah, and so their idea is to take the information that they've heard from the different subcommittees and come up with a recommendation or pitch for a recommendation. Is that where they're?
Well, in theory, I mean, that's what that's what is proposed. I think anybody though is going to be able to, anybody oops, at all is going to be able to come up with whatever recommendation they have had in their mind, and it doesn't necessarily have to meet any particular goal, right? I mean, that's what I understood. However, I think that overall, the group is very invested in solving as many problems as possible and meeting all of our decided upon goals. So I think that they will arrive at recommendations that mostly meet those marks. So I imagine that will be a big topic of discussion, actually. And some of that was discussed last week. You know, we really want to meet as many of these as possible. Some people were suggesting to prioritize those a little bit. That work hasn't been done yet. There are a number of things that are still to come.
Thank you. All right, any questions for Jillian and Leanne? All right, any liaison reports? Just for the DEMT group, the last meeting was canceled, so we'll have our next one soon in May. Yes, thank you.
And the pre-K task force is, I mean, at this point has been, the people have been able to sign up for pre-K for the lottery, and they are going to work through that whole process. And the term is escaping me. I wanted to say the next step is screening.
Yes.
Thank you. I couldn't come up with that word. I was like,
Diane coming in
the
clutch.
thing, they were gonna do the thing. But yeah, the next step is screening. They will screen a set number of kids, and then eventually they will arrive at the 16.
Do
So,
we have any idea of how many applications we've done?
oh, there were a lot.
I think we received somewhere around 50.
Yeah,
Seemed
Yeah.
like the number.
yeah. And they were pretty, you know, they were from all over. They weren't from any one specific area. They were all over Scarborough. So that's great. It's a
Yeah.
great group to choose from.
And we definitely have a need then, right? We can start to demonstrate that as well. Yeah, very good. Not to put you on the spot, John, but is there anything from the ad hoc committee, community center?
They had not a meeting, but like a gathering at it was last night, and then I couldn't make it, so I haven't got any information about the, you know, because it was several hours. It's like from 3 to 7, and I haven't found out. So I'll have it the next time we have it. I'll get the information.
Yeah, there's a, I believe anyway, I should say that there's a push to move forward with a referendum on the community center. So I'm interested to see how that will play out, given what our needs are here. So
Yeah,
any information you can bring up.
Oh, well, I'll have it for the next one.
I just wanted to give a quick legislative update. There were 2 bills that we were all very interested in, that were in the supplemental budget and passed, which was the amount for special eds and some other support staff at schools. They have tied their pay to the minimum wage by percentage. It's 125% for some, and it's 111% for others. I think in terms of our negotiations and in terms of our budgeting, we are prepared to deal with that. We knew it was coming, and I don't think there'll be a significant impact, but that bill did pass. We talked about it, and that has happened. The other bill that you may have heard about has to do with CDS, Child Development Services, transferring the provision of services from 3 to 5-year-olds who have been early identified as needing intervention services into the school districts in which those children reside. That did pass as well. That was funded in the supplemental budget, which means it's been enacted. And that means that, and I don't know all the specifics. I don't think anyone knows all the specifics about how the regulations are going to come out related to that bill. But in the next couple, 2-3 years, that's going to transition services for that age group to this body, to the school district, and it'll be our responsibility. It has a pretty large funding source right now with it, but funding sources that are tied to budgets change every couple of years. So it's something that we will need to start getting ready for.
Any questions? for Freela? I think I've been pretty transparent about my worry as to how these, state-funded programs, as they roll down to the local level, how they're funded and how we, it's not lost on me that we're here trying to find nickels and pennies where we can to make a budget work, and yet we're now going to say we're going to fund these two major programs, and we're struggling with what we currently have. We're talking about, do we put a roof on the high school or not? And yet these two massive programs are coming down, and will impact us locally. I have put in an ask from personally, and if you get an opportunity, I would love for you to ask as well. What I would like to see in the way of funding this, since it is, a done deal, I would actually like them to consider funding this over multiple years instead of just one. Because let's at least provide a runway for our residents to be able to get used to the idea of funding something locally, and it's not just 1 year funding and the next year you're on your own.
My understanding is what they're saying, and I'm not representing this because our representation in Augusta changes every 2 years, and there's term limits after a certain number of terms. So what the legislative body that enacted this is not the same legislative body that's going to be doing the regular general budget next year. And the way the budget cycle works, I'm not going to do, we have a lot to go on today. Nobody wants a TED Talk on that. It's extremely complicated and it's very fickle. It changes very quickly, and there's a lot of new education that needs to be done regularly. As of right now, they're representing that the money that they've had in DHS allocated for these programs will continue. The problems with the program were less tied to financing actually, and more tied to finding service providers to provide the services that were necessitated. Because of our location in Southern Maine, we have a significant advantage over rural districts because we have the population here. But we struggle to meet the needs of our students right now. That's why the speech pathologist was added back into the budget. This is going to require us to build an infrastructure that is already inadequate. I feel like I'm doing my day job all over again, a different system. There's an inadequate system right now. There's infrastructure that needs to be built. I hope the funding continues at the rate that they say that it's going to. It's a complicated funding scheme because it's also related to a lot of health insurance and Maine care benefits. I mean, it's a very complicated funding stream. It's not, I don't believe that they're going to cut off funding and in 2027, they're going to say, good luck funding all the speech pathology.
Well, yeah, but what about the ed techs and the support staff? That is,
That's squarely on our shoulders.
right, that's the one, I figured the funding, well, I shouldn't say I figured, I'm hopeful that the funding will continue as promised for the.
I would be less concerned about the other bill. And let's be honest, we struggle with funding ed techs. Ed techs are the biggest group, which is why we focus on them, but it's all support services are impacted by this. Scarborough wages are not so low that we're going to be very impacted by this. We are not paying, our pay rate is not so low that the legislature has to order us to pay people at 125% of minimum wage. This isn't like a secret. Like if you look at our pay scales, which are public, we're not going to be severely impacted by this. We're not paying people so low that a whole group of people are suddenly getting massive raises.
Right.
Let's be honest, we don't want to be treating people so unfairly that the legislature has to tell us to fund their positions adequately. So the reason I'm not concerned about that bill is because our pay rate is already going to be okay. This is not 125% of what we're paying people right now. It's 125% of minimum wage. Now, minimum wage is now indexed, which means it goes up every year. If that continues, it can change next legislative session. But as that continues, that 125% is indexed to that.
Right.
So it will go up
It will
with
go up.
minimum wage. But we don't pay people minimum wage.
No, but we do have some that,
But-
I don't know what that exact number, I'm looking to Kate because I don't know the exact number.
Yeah, looking at the numbers, we're not going to have a severe impact. There's not going to be a bunch of people there's not a class of people that are suddenly going to get a raise. because of this bill, because our pay rates are high enough that it's not going to be severely impacted by this. There's going to be some impact, but it's going to be nothing. So I don't think this bill right now is a significant issue. If minimum wages decline significantly higher and this index stays with it, that will be something in the future we'll have to deal with, but that's a distant future issue, I think, because minimum wage is not climbing so quickly that we can't keep up with it. Keep your eye on the other bill. That is a much more significant problem, and the problem is twofold. It's financing, but it's also finding personnel that we already are struggling to find. And that, like, those are two different intractable problems. They're somewhat related. If you pay people well, you can attract people, but we're not in a place, and quite frankly, our population, given the age it is at, is not in a place where we're building large quantities of the professionals that we're going to need to provide the services. And we're probably going to need to be creative and start thinking about how we share with other districts. This is going to require large scale infrastructure that DHS was unable to do competently.
It's a lot to take in.
But yeah, the minimum wage bill is interesting. It's not what our problem is. Providing services for 3 to 5 year olds with needs that haven't been identified yet, that's going to be a very hard challenge and expensive.
Yeah. All right. All right, let's see. Agenda item 12.0 are student reports. So I'll turn this over to Colby.
I got a pretty long one tonight. It's about all the activities going on at the middle school and the high school. There's a slide from Grace with some pictures, but I don't see any subtitles, so I don't really know what to say about that. But looks like some good things are going on at the primary schools. But on to the next slides. Next one. You guys already saw the unified clubs. That was pretty amazing. And we already know they were unified national champions, which is pretty impressive. And there's next slide has some more pictures of that. It's great to see. And then at the high school, there's been a lot of art projects at the art club, including pin making, pumpkin painting, and sculpting. I don't know if that's sculpting or sculpty, but yeah, here are these. And then also at the high school, there's been printmaking. So people making packing tape sculptures, and here's some pictures of that. And then several artists at the high school won a lot of some good awards, a host of names here. Won Scholastic Art Awards, which is pretty impressive. And then the Youth Art Month at the Portland Museum of Art also had some recipients. And after 5 difficult meets, the high school math team won the state meet, which is pretty impressive also. Matthew Fagerlund finished as the 3rd place junior, and Logan Cloutier finished as the 11th place senior. And both finished in the top 20 for individual scores of the year. And Scarborough High School was also one of only 2 schools to surpass 300 points and bested the Maine School of Science and Mathematics 318 to 307, that's pretty insane. And Vex Robotics also competed at this state meet March 9th. All 5 teams made it to the state meet, and 4 out of the 5 made it to the second round of qualifiers. And some season awards. 344R won the Create Award, 344E won the Create Award, and Build Award, and 344R won the tournament champion. And here's some more pictures of that. Some alumni came back to support the teams as well.
That's cool.
Yeah. All right. The high school Model UN visited Phillips Exeter Academy for a conference on November 5th and UNH on March 9th. Jack Murnane won the Distinguished Delegate Award at Phillips Exeter. He also won it last year at USM. And Katarina Ausbach won the Honorable Award winner. And also on April 6th, the club had a antique show, and they have that like every year. There's a lot of big sellers there. It's impressive. And at Model UN, students transform into a UN ambassador role while debating topics such as gender equality, climate action, global health, and more. It's like a UN simulation. I did that club for 2 years, and I thought it was pretty cool to go to the conference and stuff. Yeah. And then the Key Club and the Functional Life Skills Group went to the Morrison Center, or they brought Morrison Center students to Scarborough High School once a week to have lunch with Scarborough students currently in the auditorium. Key Club has also worked with the Morrison Center to allow SHS students to think the ability to volunteer during early release days at the Morrison Center to work with them on projects like gardening and cooking. And this has been a great exposure for everyone involved. And the Ecos Club has, starting in the fall of 2022, worked with the Learning Commons to reduce plastic waste and make use of coffee grounds. The compostable coffee pods were purchased through Ecos funds and inspired the Learning Commons staff to start their own program with reusable Keurig coffee pots and locally roasted fair trade coffee. Yeah. And then the Scarborough Middle School Student Council and Builders Club paired up with the Scarborough Food Pantry, or SFD, Scarborough Fire Department, to help stock the Scarborough Food Pantry on March 14th. Over 3,500 items were collected. Squad 7, Car 7, and half the buses were filled, and one half of a bus were filled. And congrats to Caleb Britton, for 7th grader, for the most items being brought in, and for 6th grade, and to the 6th graders for bringing the most items. And lastly, the middle school on April 11th, 12th, and 13th had a production of Newsies. I heard it went pretty well and pretty impressive. I did the theater in middle school, and it's always a good program. And that's all I have, but thank you.
Are there any questions or comments for Colby and Grace? That was really awesome. Thank you for that. That was a really good presentation. Thank you. All right, agenda item 13.0 is general public comment. Is there anyone wishing to make general public comment this evening? No one online? No. All right, seeing none, we will close general public comment. Agenda item 14.0 is a public hearing on the FY25 school budget. So I'll turn it over to Kate.
It won't be an hour and a half. I promise. I think I have like 5 slides and 2 of them are a calendar. So tonight is a piece of the school budget process that's very important. Looking into our audience here, I'm seeing my beloved colleagues and probably not a huge crowd of the public waiting to speak at our public hearing. Typically, the town council public hearing on the budget is a lot more involved in terms of the community, but we do this, provide this opportunity for the public to come and speak and give us their opinions. And in doing so, we usually take a moment to just sort of give an update to the board on where we're at since we last talked about all of this at the first reading. So that's my bit. And then Shannon can open a public hearing and we'll see if anyone comes rushing in.
Is there anybody here wishing to make public comment about the FY25 school budget? Is there anybody online?
No, it's okay. I'm not hurt. Honestly, I think, it's not a well-known or attended event. in our process, but it is a legally required event. And so we provide the opportunity. And we'll take the opportunity just to talk for like 2 minutes, not an hour and a half, about where we're at. So the first reading of our budget, the board passed on March 21st. That's the last time that I was up here talking to you about numbers. The full municipal budget went to the town council and the public on March 27th. That's when Jeff and Tom Hall did a presentation. And then the town council a week later passed that budget in their first reading, and that's including the municipal side and the school budget. So right now, since then, as Carolyn pointed out very eloquently a few minutes ago, we've been having a lot of meetings, and we've been having meetings with the town council finance committee, budget meetings with the public, budget meetings with our own finance committee. And the goal of all of that is to take that first reading and to refine it, update it, improve it as we move toward the board's second reading, which is going to happen next week on May 2nd. This is my plug for the materials that we have available for the public. I use this all the time, which is really silly, but I mean, I know this is where things are. So if you click on that link, which is live in our slide presentation, if you're watching this meeting, you will find all of these cool things about the FY25 school budget. You'll also find a link to the town's budget portal, which includes the full municipal budget. I have another plug for that later on. I like to repeat myself as much as possible. But these are some of the items that you can find. And one of the things that we're using this budget portal for is to add, there's a calendar in there that talks about all of the meeting dates that we have in this process. And each time we have a meeting, we're posting the agendas or meeting notes or documents that were used in that meeting right in that same little calendar. So it's easy one-stop shopping for folks. So this slide shows you what the budget looked like, the operating budget, which is general fund is our K-12 budget that goes to the voters. Then we add adult education and school nutrition, which are separate funds. And this is a snapshot of the totals that went to the board on first reading. So this is what you folks have passed so far. Total education budget, the third line up is what we call the gross budget, which is the total expenditures. And we subtract the non-tax revenues, which is mostly state subsidy in our case, and combined with $1.5 million of fund balance. And that brings us to the net budget, which you'll also hear called the tax request. What that represents is the bottom line of what the school department asks the town for in taxes. And it's not the increase in the tax rate, it's the increase in the amount that the school budget needs from taxes based on what the school budget had last year as a standalone. So at that point, we were at 4.68%, and Carolyn referred to that earlier. Oh, we've got a transition, cool. I don't know how I do that.
Click, click, click.
I just like to give Diane a thrill once in a while. So this slide is adjustments since the first reading. And as I said, the work between first reading and second reading is all about making the budget better, making the budget proposal closer to what we really need, responsive to what the community is asking for, and reflective of what the school department is finally going to need with the best information that we can have by the time of second reading. As Carolyn mentioned, we had great news on our anthem rates. We had budgeted originally at an increase of 8%, and they came in at just a little over 3%, which is remarkable. We had a meeting with Anthem today, a Zoom meeting all across the state, and some of the rates that folks are getting were very high, up to 11% increases. So we can count ourselves really lucky for that. So we have made an adjustment to the budget proposal that we put out there for first reading, and it saves from our original proposal, about $348,000. We also had a change in the Paid Family Leave Act that's been passed by the state of Maine. It's a new benefit for anyone who's working in the state. And you may have heard a few things about it in the past. It impacts every employer, so it's on the town side as well. But we got some new guidance about how that plays with, or how that relates to collective bargaining agreements. And if you are in a collective bargaining agreement, which many of our employees are, depending on the timing of that contract, you may or may not be subject to this tax, right, to this new payroll tax. And so what we learned was that a significant portion of our school community isn't going to need to pay that in FY25. They will pay it in FY26. So we made a reduction to the budget. We made a few other personnel refinements. I'm actually still working on some things connected with the new proposals and the reduction in the anthem rates and trying to refine those estimates that we used in the first reading. So we'll have a bottom line on that for next week. Capital projects, we deferred a couple of those. Carolyn already spoke to that, and to the use of capital reserve funds, some combination of school impact fees and school capital reserves as non-tax revenue. So those are the big things that we've been looking at, and you've heard about them twice now, so yay us. Accounting team at the ready. So this is what the bottom line looks like. It's basically the same thing that Carolyn showed you. This one doesn't include the capital budget, but I did want to point out, I put this together before we had our meeting today with the Finance Committee. So this is as of our Monday meeting. But the School Board Finance Committee notes are online, and there's an agenda with a bunch of stuff linked into it. And as we update, as we change, we're putting new documents out there. So if you want to see the details, I'm going to bore you with them again next week. But if you want to see them on your own, they're going to be posted online as well. Oh, transition time. Here's the calendar. There's a joint town council school board budget workshop next Wednesday, which Shannon and Carolyn have already spoken to. That should be quite interesting, seeing where the town is at as well as the school department, because our budgets together are what are going to combine to impact the tax rate for our citizens here at Scarborough. That same night at the town council meeting, there'll be the town council public hearing. Our school board second reading is the next day on Thursday, May 2nd, next Thursday. The town council second reading and budget vote isn't until the 15th. So they have the final say on the budget. There's a school board meeting on the 16th, and I haven't put it on the calendar, but if there is a need for adjustments based on what the town council says on the 15th, if there's a need for the school board to go back and make a change to the school budget to accommodate whatever they've said, then we would do that on the 16th. And the most important piece for the public is the referendum vote on June 11th. The town of Scarborough gets to come out and tell us what they think. We hope they think it's a great budget, and we hope they all come out and vote for it. But you can also do early voting and absentee ballots for the school referendum, just like any other election. And I've put a link in here to the voting information on the town's website. I promise I'm going to fix this. Oh, do I have two of them? Oh, you just wanted to do it again? It was so fun. It was so much fun. And here's my pitch for the public. Come and see us, come and watch us, please vote. And here's another link again to our school department budget page. And you can also look at the full town municipal budget and all of the details they have there. They have a similar calendar with documents in it as well. And that's my story.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Kate? I know Carolyn's here too. Any questions about the budget?
Just if I can chime in a second, I just want to thank Kate and Jeff and Diane and the leadership team. They've really done an incredible job putting the budget book together and answering, I don't know how many, between my emails and some other emails from the town council and from citizens. Kate's had a lot thrown at her. And anyway, I just can't say enough how much I appreciate everyone and their hard work that they put into this.
Yeah, I would echo that as well, Carolyn. I just somebody sent me an article earlier today that I was reading, and it was a Bangor Daily News article about the budget process, and the superintendent said was quoted as saying this is the worst budget year they've ever seen. And I feel like I constantly say this behind closed doors, and I don't know that I've ever said it to you in public. And now is really, I feel, is the time. You've done an amazing job over these past few years. You've really, I remember the very first time I sat down with you and we talked COVID funds, and the way you described it, I was like, okay, it feels like overtime pay. We don't count on it. We don't plan for it. We don't assume we're going to have it forever. And you have saved this district a lot of heartache and a lot of heartburn. And the residents should be so thankful for all the work you have done. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I cannot say it enough.
Thank you for saying thank you. I'm accused of not taking compliments well, but I have to give credit to the team because our leadership team has from the get-go been focused on that stability, that sustainability of our budget year over year. It's, you know, it's a big part of our work. So I give them credit. Yeah. I don't know if I said this properly, but when we come for second reading, we'll have a whole new set of documents that are basically sort of not necessarily rewriting every last thing that we put out there in the first reading, but all the line items, all the summaries, all the things that we had for first reading will have a revised version so that when folks go to dive in, they can see where we were and where we landed.
I'm going to do something I hate doing. And Carolyn, please forgive me because I've already called her today with my mathing, and my mathing is not always correct. So, but I'm going to attempt this. If I add up everything that from first reading to now that has come back in the way of adjustments. So I don't know if I want to call it found money, but that's what I keep landing on, the money that you estimated at one amount, but it's come in different. Like, for example, the anthem.
Yeah.
If I add in all of those changes, I get to approximately 576,000 and some change. Roughly. Hopefully that math is correct.
That sounds about right, because the other piece of the puzzle, where we were aiming for about $1 million reduction, right? To what our original budget was. And the other side of that coin is the non-tax revenues that we're using, right? Which is almost $600,000. So that's about the right order of magnitude. I don't have the exact number in my head.
So between the what I'm calling found money and the
I like items in motion.
items in motion. Yes, let's call
That's
it
my
that.
phrase.
Items in motion that have been flushed out a little bit more
That
since
have
first reading
that have worked well in our favor.
and have worked
Because
very well in our
sometimes they go
favor.
the other way.
Yes, this has been a good year. Last year was not so great with this. This year's great.
Exactly.
But if you take that 576,000 and you add the 585,000 that we're hoping to use from school impact fees, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're at our goal.
I don't think we're quite at our goal because we've added in a position. Did you put that in your mathies?
No.
No. And we were within about 200,000. And I think I think I said to you earlier, it took me about 5 tries at the worksheet to make it come out right between the changes in the revenue and the changes in the expenditures. But by my tally, we were just over 300,000 this noontime.
Short.
And short, well, this is short of what was asked of us to model by the town council finance committee, which was, let's take the almost $400,000 that you've already found and let's add another $1 million to that.
Right.
Right.
Oh, that's right. Because we can't count all of that.
And that could be part of your math as well.
Mhm.
We're the anthem the first set of changes that we brought to the table, we already had on April 11th when we met with the Town Council Finance Committee.
Yeah.
So their request for us to find more was above that. So that's probably like the 300,000 that I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be it.
Yeah.
And Shannon, just so you know, after work, I was putting together the slides, the slide for today, and I was struggling with the math too, and I'm like, oh, I think Kate may have made a mistake, and then she didn't.
Oh. Well, I probably
I
did.
talked myself into it and talked myself out of it. And
Oh.
where I landed, and Kate, you can correct me if I'm wrong, where I landed is the $211,000 of savings in the CIP that we deferred. It's kind of an it's an out and an out. It's an out on the revenue for bonding, and it's an out in request.
Exactly. So you reduce the expense, but they were going to be bonded, so you have non-tax revenue that you reduce, so there's no bottom line impact to the tax request.
Yeah, I
But it
think
is
that
indeed-
was,
Yeah.
oops, sorry, go ahead.
It's gonna, I was gonna say probably just exactly what you were gonna say, Shannon, is it is indeed a cut, or deferral. So we can certainly point that out next week.
Yeah, and I think there's been a lot of discussion with the town about whether, regardless of the funding source, that the capital budget was something that they wanted us to scrutinize and to make sure that we really had only the things on there that we felt we needed. And there may not be an immediate tax impact, but if you bond something, then later on, you're going to have a debt service impact.
Yeah, I think that the conversation at finance, I went to the finance committee as a meeting as a community member, just because with numbers, I seem to work better when I can hear them in person versus over Zoom. And what was really interesting for me to hear is and to really think about and consider, that might be good for everybody else to hear and think about, is when you're deferring the capital projects, you're really not impacting the tax ask for this specific
For the
year,
current
because
year.
To what the point Carolyn's making is that if you bond it, there's revenue coming in the form of a bond. And then when you're spending it, right, then you've got the expense side. But if you're doing neither, right, it's like it's a neutral
Nothing happened.
impact. Yeah.
Yeah.
So while those are drops, it's not going to impact the this year tax bill.
Yeah, but then on the other side, that $585,000, the reason why that makes a difference is that those dollars were slated to be what you call appropriated. Taxes would be raised for those. And the reason for that, $500,000, as Carolyn pointed out, was sort of a generic placeholder for the building committee and the building project and whatever work they might need to have done to advance the project as it comes out of this committee. And the other 85,000 is to have some engineering and designing done for the secure vestibules at 8 Corners and at Pleasant Hill. When you have a project like that, we put it under long-range planning, unless there's already an approved capital project, like a building project that's been approved by your council and your voters, you can't bond that because it's an idea. You can only bond physical things. You can bond a school bus because it's a thing. And you can't bond an idea. But the interesting piece about that is that if you do have a school project, let's say you spend that $500,000 next year and you've used your school reserve funds, and then you have a building project and it's approved and it goes to the voters, you can actually borrow the money later and say, oh, we're paying ourselves back because now we do have a project. We have a building, and a building is eligible for bonding. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, there's been a lot of discussion from the budget workshops that I've attended. They've been really, I would say roundtables. So the roundtable discussions have been interesting with the community members, because a lot of the talk has been around other things other than the budget, which is an interesting conundrum when you're at a budget roundtable.
They get a
But
chance to talk to you.
yeah, yeah, it's been pretty eye-opening. But one of the things that has been mentioned a few times and by Counselor Hamel is that if we are using fund balance to fund operating expenses, we're just kind of kicking that can down the road because we're giving them relief this year, but then next year that becomes part of the operating budget and we have to ask for it. But I'm supportive of this 585 because of using the 585 in school impact fees for these specific purposes, because we are not, hopefully, going to ask the community for $500,000 more to design a new school again for a third time. Hopefully, second time is the charm, right? So this would be a one-time expense. The security vestibules at the two schools, why I think we've all discussed up here many times that we don't want to necessarily put money into the schools when we don't know what we're doing. We're going to have those schools for at least 5 more years. So we have to do something. And so again, we're to secure our students, right, and their safety when they're at school. But again, these are one-time expenses. This wouldn't be a continual, right?
Right. It wouldn't
Continual
be an
expense.
item that would come up again and again.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, speaking to the vestibules, it's part of a bigger conversation about what money do we put into those 3K2 buildings because, and this is a conversation we've been having for 8 years now. Like, well, we don't want to put money into them because we're not going to keep them because we're going to have this new solution. Well, there are kids there
Yep.
today. There will be kids there for the next 5 years. There were kids there for the past 8 years. They deserve the same safety and security that every other kid in our district has. So I think that's a priority for us. And it also adds value to those buildings. The buildings aren't going to necessarily disappear. If we build a new building, we've talked about this around and about a few different ways, but we have 3 very nice properties that belong to the town of Scarborough. And maintaining them is actually a benefit to the town as well. And maybe enhancing them is a benefit to the town because that's something that a new user would have access to, whether that be a pre-K, whether that be a community center, whether it be, sold to an outside person. That building improvement is going to be there and going to be a value.
Any other questions for Kate?
Want to push for an hour and a half?
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 15.0 is new business. I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm going to bundle together 15.1, 15.2, 15.3, 15.4, and 15.5. These are our first readings. I'm doing this for a variety of reasons, but one is because a couple of them kind of go together with the name change and the letter changing. So I will turn this over to Freyla to go ahead and discuss.
Excellent.
Please.
Yeah, I'm going to try to go quickly and encourage people to look at the materials and the sample versus what we ended up recommending for further clarification. The first motion is really, it's a renaming function. So our naming convention uses letters. There's a sample model policies that we use as a starting point with our policies that have specific names. It's kind of like a card catalog, if you will, of policies. We created a policy that's not in the sample policy that's named BBAB right now. It's the Student School Board Representation Policy that we'll get to later. That being said, there is a sample policy that's BBAB that is regarding school board self-evaluation, which is featured in our next policy. So we're proposing to rename our student school board representation policies to BBAAA. It seems really silly, but it will make things much more clear so that if people are looking at our policies, and if we're in fact are trying to look at our own policies to compare it to the sample policies or other policies from other districts, there'll be consistency and people will be able to find the policy that they're looking for. So it's important, but it's a pretty minor change. I'm not gonna, if you have questions, I can come back to it. What it would do is just simply rename it so that it's not, we don't have a duplicative naming convention. Because if we pass 15.2, we would be creating a new BBAB regarding school board self-evaluation, which we don't currently have in policy, but as we've spent a lot of time on self-evaluation recently, we do have it as part of our practice. It's in our calendar. It's also, if you look at the very on our board operating protocols and our board goals every year, we include self-evaluation as part of it. So it's part of our practice. The sample policies do have a policy saying that we will do this. And so we would propose to pass the policy. The difference between the sample policy and the policy that we put forward is that our policy for board evaluation is brief and non-specific. The sample policy was very specific on sort of how things would go in the procedure. And we think the policy should be more guidance that this should happen, that the board will do it annually. There's a reason for it, but that how a board is going to self-evaluate should be up to that board, because that may look different for different boards. And it should be based really on the goals that in the strategic planning that's been done, that this district does. So I've said a lot in the past about how our policies should mirror our strategic plans and the guidance that we put forward for everything. It all should lead back to each other. Please look at the self-evaluation policy. That's a sample. We didn't think as a committee that we needed to enumerate every single piece of evaluation that we should do, simply that we should do it. So that's 15.2. Moving to 15.3, that would be the policy of BBBA. That's organization of the board. That is a really short, wait, hold on. Organization of the board, yeah, that's a really short policy. Sorry, I didn't bring it up for some reason. Hold on. Just give me a quick second, apologize. BBBA is misnamed in our agenda. It shouldn't be organization of the board. It's actually board member qualifications. So I'm sorry, that's why I'm getting confused, because it is on the agenda, it stated BBBA is organization of the board, and it should be board member qualifications. So that just is named erroneously, but the correct policy was posted with the correct name on it. This is a really short policy. It looks at statute, says per Maine statute, and it enumerates the qualifications that one has to have to become a Board of Education member. These are found in our town charter. They're also found in Maine state law. It has to do with us being over 18, you're a voter, you have to live you have to be a resident, and they're nonpartisan elections. Again, this is all governed by state statute, and it also points to the town charter. The final policies, BIA and BIAR, have to do with new board member orientation. We also freehanded this one quite a bit, so we departed from the sample policy to an extent. This one's actually closest of the three, and it really just talks about sort of our process on how we did do this or how we want to see this done. We didn't make a tremendous number of changes. We do have some enumerated specifics in this having to do with the discussions of what a board should be oriented on. And we felt that in case we have a really young board and perhaps a board that's all new members, we should at least give them a list of what they should be training on. If anyone has questions about that list, please ask, but it's a pretty basic list that all of us went through. We did add one, and BIAR, we added one attachment, which is a little unusual. We're actually required to complete freedom of access training under statute. And so this is a certification that you have completed that training. It's available online, and you just certify that you've done it. We are all required to do this by statute. So we propose to put it in the policy so that we all know that we have to do it. And as we onboard members every year, we'll be reminded, because we're going to pull up BIA. For onboard people, we'll see the BIAR, and then we'll make sure that we're all in compliance with that statute, because things got a little crazy after COVID, and I'm not sure everybody has done this on time. So that is all the policies. Happy to take questions.
Is there anybody wishing to make public comment or on any of the new policies that we've discussed? Presume no, but. All right, seeing none. Is there a motion to approve 15.1, the motion to reclassify current BBAB student school board representation and BBABR student school board representation guidelines to BBAAA Student School Board Representation and BBAAR Student School Board Representation Guidelines. 15.2, the first reading of policy BBAB School Board Self-Evaluation. 15.3, the first reading of policy BBBA, which is the, I just want to make sure I use the right word, board member qualifications. First reading of 15.4, first reading of policy BIA, new board member orientation. And 15.5, the first reading of policy BIAR, certification of completion as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Yeah, of course.
I just to clarify that the error in the agenda was my error, just to be clear. Take responsibility for my mistakes.
All right, seeing no discussion, can we call the vote, please?
Yes. Mrs. Gammon,
Yes.
Ms. Castellanos,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Tarpinian,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Yes.
and Mr. Shumway.
Wonderful, it's unanimous, thank you. Agenda item 15.6 is the middle school spring coaches appointment.
Yep, so I've got the list of coaches here in your packet for athletics spring coaches roster 2024.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the middle school spring coaches as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, can we call the vote, please?
Mrs. Gammon,
Yes.
Ms. Castellanos.
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Ms. Lindstrom.
Yes.
Ms. Tarpinian,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff.
Yes.
And Mr. Shumway.
Yes.
Perfect, it's unanimous, thank you so much. Agenda item 15.7 is a Southern Maine Orthodontics $700 donation to the class of 2028.
So I'd like to just briefly share a memo from Kate about this donation. So on April 9th, 2024, the middle school received a donation check in the amount of $700 from Southern Maine Orthodontics. This donation of $700 is given to the class of 2028. We are most grateful for their support and respectfully request the school board approve acceptance of this donation on behalf of the class of 2028 with many thanks.
Wonderful, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the Southern Maine Orthodontics $700 donation to the class of 2028?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All right, can we call the roll, please?
Ms. Gammon,
Yes.
Ms. Castellanos,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Ms. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Tarpinian,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Yes.
and Mr. Shumway.
Wonderful, it's unanimous, thank you. Agenda item 16.10 is executive session. 16.1 is a motion to enter into an executive session for discussion or consideration of the employment, appointment, assignment, duties, promotion, demotion, compensation, evaluation, disciplining, resignation, or dismissal of an individual or group of public officials, appointees, or employees of the body or agency to return to public session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Given the time, I'd like to make maybe a slight amendment that we extend beyond the 9:30 timeframe so that we have enough time to discuss everything within the executive session.
I second that motion.
Okay, so let's vote on that first, and then we'll vote on the executive session. So the motion on the floor is to switch the order and vote to extend our meeting beyond 9:30, should we need it. So we have a first and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, can we call the vote for that, please?
Ms. Gammon,
I think she said yes.
I said yes. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Ms. Castellanos.
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Tarpinian,
Yes.
Mr. Peony Huff,
Yes.
Mr. Shumway.
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. So we go back to the motion to enter into executive session. We had a motion and do I have a motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, in a second.
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? Okay. Oh,
Mrs.
Yeah, I thought you seconded.
He seconded Leanne's. Do I have a second okay, so we had a John motion to enter into executive session. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Oh.
So, wait,
Okay.
no, second.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yes, please.
Ms. Gammon,
Yes.
Ms.
I'm
Castellanos?
trying.
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher?
Yes.
Ms. Leong?
Yes.
Ms. Lindstrom?
Yes.
Ms. Tarpinian?
Yes.
Ms. Trapani Huff?
Yes.
And Mr. Shumway?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. It's unanimous. Thank you so much. All right, agenda item 17.0 is adjournment. So without objection, I will adjourn the meeting at 9:44 PM. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.